Welcome to another edition of the podcast known as Blending the Family. I am your stressed out host, and I'm sorry if I'm stressing you out because of my stress. I apologize. I'm sorry. Group hug. Here we go. Hug the mic. Group hug. I am your host, Tommy Maloney. Thank you for listening. If this is your first time, I'm not usually this stressed out, but I've given myself 45 minutes to get this podcast produced and up in the cloud. In the cloud, as the kids would say. It's a Friday, and normally, again, if this is your first time listening, normally the podcast comes out Friday morning. I am giving a speech, a presentation today here in Colorado, northern Colorado, for Fort Collins. I'm screwed. I can't even speak. Fort Collins Startup Week. And today's topic for me, what I'll be talking about, is imposter syndrome. Do you suffer from that? I massively suffer from that. I'm going to just tell you, I really wish my flight last night had been canceled. I wish we had snow here in Colorado, and I wouldn't have been able to make the talk. That's how stressed I am. That's how much imposter syndrome affects me. Whoa, there we go. All right, Michele Traina is our guest on this podcast. And who is Michele? Thanks for asking. Thanks for thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging out. Real quick, Michele. She's a comedian. She has a master's in education. She's hilarious. But she has on Instagram. That's how I found her, on Instagram. She has what's called Divorce Diaries show. And she does these one-woman act episodes of her diaries talking about her divorce. And again, you got to find her on Instagram. She's on the others, and they're in the show notes on the Twitter and on the Facebook. But on Instagram, you really get to see her hilarity in action. So again, it's Divorce Diaries show. And Michele and I, we have this conversation. I recorded this Wednesday night this week. Stayed up in past midnight to start editing it and putting the show notes together. Flew out yesterday from New York to Denver. And here we are. Again, I'm stressed out because I want to get this done. I want to get to Fort Collins to be ready to go. But anyway, with Michele and I, some of the things we talked about. How did she even start this Divorce Diaries show? Does her daughter Grace find Michele funny? We talk about how do you have confidence after a divorce, and she brings a great, interesting insight to that. Plus, her stories are hilarious. I just sat there listening to her laughing the whole time. You might hear some of the laughter, but some of it I had to cover up because she just goes off the tracks, and she was telling this story, and it was hilarious. Okay, just hilarious. So again, please find her on the social. But as I stated, Instagram. That's the way to go. Divorce Diaries show. All right, we've got that. Trying to think what else I really wanted to cover other than I just really want to get this episode between your ears as of today. So again, I doubt you'll be able to book up to Fort Collins and see my presentation or see any of the other speakers' presentation, because probably by the time this is up and running, it'll be too late. I don't know. Let's find out. So here's what I'll do. If I get this podcast up in time before I leave to have to drive up to Fort Collins, and you tell me you heard this episode, I will hand you my book, 25 Tips for Divorced Dads. Or if you want the kids' coloring book, 10 Tips on How to Survive Your Parents' Divorce. I'll bring those with me. Okay? All right. There you go. That's it. I'm super excited about this episode. I'm always excited about every episode. So, anyway, Michele Traina. I'm screwing up, and I'm so sorry, Michele. Traina. Traina. I think that's it. Anyway, Michele, Divorce Diaries show. You can find her mostly on the East Coast. You'll hear her New Jersey accent come out, and it's hilarious. Okay, there we go. If this is your first time listening, I love to quote from listening to another podcast that had Terry Crews as a guest, and Terry Crews talked about how other people's success will be your success, and that's what I'm looking forward to as part of my talk today at Fort Collins Startup Week. I want to talk to the people that show up. I think there's like 2 people that signed up, but anyway, that if they're successful, they can help others be successful, and it's circular. You with me so far? So that's. Do I have? Let's see. Does this notebook have my notes? Try to see. I'll give you a brief. Before I go, let me give you a brief mantra for my talk today, and it comes from. There used to be a show called The Big Idea, hosted by Donnie Deutsch, and Donnie talked a lot about why not you. Okay, if you have an idea, well, why not you? Why not you taking that idea and running? And as for those of you who've listened to this podcast before, you understand that I have a dreaded day job. I still do my best. And maybe times I don't do my best enough, but I do my best to try and produce a podcast. I try my best to write. I try my best. But if you have an idea, if you have something you want to do, you're going to have to pace yourself, because life is a marathon, not a sprint. Yes, it's a cliche. But why not you? Why not take that idea, that business idea? Maybe it's a book you want to write. Maybe you want to start your own podcast. Maybe you want to start a dog walking business, which I miss. I used to have one. Anyway, why not you? Do it, okay? Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid, okay? So your mantra, I'm going to leave you with this mantra, is why not you? Thanks to Donnie Deutsch. Thanks to his show that used to be on called The Big Idea. But remember, I'm going to bring it back to Terry Crews, and that is, remember, your success is my success. You're successful if you take my advice, my unsolicited advice, to go and do what you want to do. You're only on this planet one time. That's it. No dress rehearsal. So please, just do your calling. Do your passion. Quit. And this is why I am, in my view, so good at having this topic, because I'm living this. I'm living this BS in my own mind, afraid to take that next step. But I want you to take that next step. I want you to take that cliche of the taking that leap of faith. Just fucking do it, okay? Man, can you tell I'm a little stressed out? I haven't had a lot of sleep this week either because of this talk, because it means so much to me. Nick Armstrong at WTF Marketing, he's the one who put on this event this week, so check him out on the social. WTF Marketing, Nick Armstrong, great guy. He's the one who developed the Blending the Family website. Okay, there you go. I'm done. I have talked way too much, and if I want to get this podcast done, I've talked way. I only have 15 minutes. My goal is less than 15 minutes now to get this done, and I think I can do it. Anyway, there you go. All right, why not you? Your success is my success. Fucking do it. Just fucking do it. That's it. I gotta go. Now I have 15 minutes to do this. So thank you for listening. Please leave a rating and review. Please share this podcast. Go to the highest mountain and tell people about Blending the Family, the podcast. Please. Thank you. Have a great day. Bye. I mean it this time. All right. So I don't know where I found you on Instagram,
Yeah.
but I'm happy I did because
Yeah.
you have some interesting content. You have um I want to call it very positive divorce.
Yeah. Well,
And
I
where
mean,
so where does it come from, Michelle?
well, I don't know if I would call that my divorce was a positive. Well, I don't think my divorce, in essence, the theme was positive. Definitely not. I think that the outcome for me was like I wanted it, so I was trying to get the happy back. And the humor part is the positive part. I guess you're referring to where it's finding the humor in a mishap in life, or a, what some would say, a downward spiral, which divorce can be for some people. But I absolutely feel like divorce is just one of many things that happens to people. It's a huge, big breakup that has to, unfortunately happen if people are unhappy or have done things to make the other person unhappy. So I just felt like, I have been an actor since college. I studied acting in college, and before that, I was a dancer. And I always wanted to be on stage or in front of a camera. And I have developed one woman shows before when I was in college, and then I continued to work after that as an actor and in musical theater. And I did this show originally as a one woman theater piece, but it was becoming this sappy, bittersweet story, and I didn't want it to be. I wanted people to just walk out laughing. And I decided to take the idea that, you can't make up what happens in your life when you get divorced. And it's more comical to me than sad, because if you can definitely be depressed over it, but if you turn it around and you make fun of yourself and you make fun of everything, then it becomes a whole different thing, and it becomes a way to heal and feel good about yourself.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And it just seems like your healing was, like you were just saying, Michelle, your humor, being able to express yourself. I remember when I went through my divorce, my therapy was uh, on Sundays traveling from Denver to LaGuardia Airport, and flying there and just busting out my laptop and just pouring my heart out of just trying to figure out, all right, just going through a divorce. How do
Yeah.
I heal? How do I, you know, try, like you were just saying too, is trying to stay positive. So after your divorce, Michelle, where did this confidence come from? Because a lot of us, and when I say us, I am definitely in this group of had no confidence after my divorce. I just wanted to go crawl back into bed and just, cry my
Right.
eyes out and just be alone. So where did your confidence come by, sharing with others what you were going through?
I think that that's a great question, because, it's not everybody has that balls to get up there and speak about it. I think that, though, I have, just because that's naturally being a performer. That was, my job. And I was also a teacher. After, when I got married, I became, excuse me, when I met my ex-husband, I went into education. I got a master's in education and found that teaching was also a role I enjoyed, because I, again, could be in front of an audience and I could help people
Right.
with it. So I never, like, no matter what was going on in my life, I was never, like, ever embarrassed to share my story. So it was just the performer in me. But for other people, it's kind of like, it can be therapy in a closed doors situation, where like for me, I wanted to help people through performance, but not everybody wants to get up on stage and talk about their story in front of an audience. So, but I think that people can feel good by doing that in the right setting. So I started this Healing Through Humor program that I do in North Jersey at a doctor's office with patients, and they do this. And these are patients who are not performers, and they are some of them are shy to even speak in public, and yet they find this comfort in talking about certain scenarios and situations, divorce, loss of a loved one, anxiety, depression, which can all relate to divorce, and they feel comforted in this framework. So, in going back to what you were asking us, how do you build the confidence to share it? For me, I naturally always wanted to be in center of attention, and with something with divorce, you have tricky territory too. So I just had to say, I'm either going to choose to share my story and help people through it, or I'm going to not do that, and I'll probably be less happy if I don't do that. So that's kind of where I went with it. And I do think everybody has it within them. It just put it in the right structure and setting, and people could use a lot of these techniques of sharing their story to make themselves feel good and motivated to move on in their life. And
Well, I was laughing, Michelle, because again, as somebody who has watched your Instagram feed and your stories, and when you mention humor, I mean, you really embrace it, and I love it because, ironically, um, I am speaking. I have a presentation coming up talking about imposter syndrome. And this is why I was so excited to get you on this podcast. The timing is perfect because I look at somebody like you who is an actor, who is very open about, their divorce. You're very, again, because you do these stand up events, you do the one woman show. And part of me is going, is that the actor 24/7? Does she have some imposter syndrome? And then the other thing that came to mind, was I'm a huge fan of The Secret, and they talk a lot about, uh, humor and
yeah,
how humor, is so beneficial to us, and it's so healthy for us. So, um again, that's why I'm so excited for you to be on this
yeah.
podcast because I can really relate to you, but at the same time, I can't relate to you. Um, and I always tell my podcast guests is that I don't do video. I'm just not comfortable. That's not my area of
Yeah, that's
expertise.
okay.
But I love watching others, such as yourself, using, video, using pictures to help promote positive things. So again, I have to ask, where does this come from, Michelle? Where's this energy? Where's this thespian come from?
I just always have been. I love to. I've been loving to perform since I was in second grade. My parents are definitely similar to me with like big personalities, and they have a lot of energy. I lost my father actually 2 months ago, but he was very much like me, and my
Oh,
mom
sorry.
is very similar. It's a little bit genetic, I think. I don't think you're just, wake. I don't think you have it's something that, if you don't have it, you don't have it. You can't force it. I have always had a lot of energy since I was a kid, and I'm very passionate. I've always been a very passionate person about pursuing what makes me feel fulfilled and not being complacent. So it's not the performer part of me has always been there. It's not something that I had at time. It took a time. It's something that's always been a sense of therapy for me, a sense of part of me. If I don't, not just comedy, but I started when I was 6 years old. I started dancing. That was my first kind of step into the performing realm. And if that kind of thing is like, if I can't move, if I can't perform, if I can't be in some kind of role like that, it my it starts to wear at me and makes me feel more anxious and stressed and angry, because it's part of me. It's who I am. It's what I'm meant to do on this planet. I truly believe that. And so that there's no real like formula, except that's who I am. I've had this energy since I can remember. But I do know that when I have had people in my life who aren't like myself, with energy or different, or maybe they're a little more introverted, that part comes out from, I think, everybody, the energy, the passion, that want to share their story with, whether it's voice, whether it's through a book, or something else, another kind of medium. It's because they're passionate about it. It's because it makes them feel fulfilled. So I think that that's also the key here, with people sharing their stories, and finding a way through divorce to make themselves come out on the other side in a more positive way.
Do you see a bit of you in your daughter?
Oh, absolutely. She's 1,001% me. I mean, she definitely has definitely has character traits of her father too, not in a negative way, but like I've said this, like this little being is just me times 1,000, and like she's such a ball of energy. Like we just came from getting our ashes at church for Ash Wednesday, and we were Catholic, and she just couldn't. She cannot sit still in church, and not many 7-year-olds can. But she wants to go, and she's hugging, and she's moving, and then she's skipping outside and so happy about life. And I was the same exact way, and it's so great to see your child, just this little being, part of you, like times 100. It's great.
Does your daughter understand um, mom's comedy?
She does know I do it. She I don't know how understand she understands to the fact that she knows I perform. She's seen me perform before, not Divorce Diaries, but she's seen me perform my kids comedy shows, and other things I've done, both as a facilitator and as a performer. She's seen it. She knows that's my job, so that's how she kind of, and she says I'm funny. So it's funny because like I had an interview for some project with her, that a casting person called inquired to me about, and her and I interviewed for it, and they asked her alone. They asked, so what do you like about your mommy? And that she's like, she's funny. And I was like, oh, okay. Yes, I'm doing something right as a parent. But those things were innate in my family. Like laughter was a huge part of, and storytelling was a big part of like both of my parents, and especially my father, just like the timing and delivery of certain punchlines that would like make us laugh, or certain parts of our day in different time periods of our lives, there was this element of laughter and storytelling. So it was a big part of my family.
My mom, because my parents divorced when I was about 5 years old, and I always remember uh, my mom instilling in me that men are pigs.
Yeah.
And I want to know, in your experience. I mean, I know you have on your website that you say, I teach kids with special needs and I date men with special needs. Um, eh, but there are, again, trying to be in my world, trying to help other men out there, and do what I can to promote positive fatherhood. It
Yeah.
sounds like, though, that you were very close to your dad,
Very
and
much so. Yeah.
even though, and it also sounds like you have, as my mom would say, you've dated some pigs in your life. But tell me, number one, tell me more about your dad, and number two, what positive male role models have you encountered?
Well, I think that the irony in this is that I have had a lot of positive male role models, such as my father, such as my uncle, who is my dad's brother, my godfather, my brothers, my older brother especially too. It's not so much that like you know, I have had these, because so this is a great question, because I kind of want to talk about, and I can relate it to in a funny way, because I have had some really good male role models, specifically my father. I don't know why I tend to want to fix or help the wounded, because that's the role I usually fall into in a relationship. It's more so something I'm doing, not so much, and I make a joke about it, like, hey, I teach kids with special needs, I date men with special needs, because the last couple of years it seems that the men I'm having this connection with is the wounded bird, emotionally or something, and it's, a lot of women have this issue too, with the same kind of narcissistic sociopath or whatever that, we get labels, women get the bipolar label, but um I don't, I was dating somebody, it was a mess. I do him in the show, and he's not divorced, he's married, and he was supposedly getting a divorce, and it was just a mess. But he had made up this whole story about me having like daddy issues. And he said that to his wife, and I was like, "Wait, what?" I said, "I don't have any daddy issues." He knows that I have a really good relationship with my father. This is right before my dad passed, actually. He conjured up such a story to project his own issues onto me, because his father had died, and he had this rough, like, weird, no, his father died when he was really young. It was just like it was interesting that he was throwing all this stuff onto me, and I was like, wait, what? But he knew I had a couple of like bummy guys that I was dating prior to him, that they weren't even so much bummy as if they just weren't committing. And um and so he kind of turned it around in the tables on me. And I was like, man, I'm not, I said, listen, I haven't had like really bad relationships. I know women who've been in like domestic violent relationships, like really bad relationships. That has not been the case with me. I've just dated the same kind of, wants to live the bachelor life for probably the rest of their life, the last couple of years. And it's just a handful of guys. And now I take that and I add some humor to it, and the exaggeration that you do meet a lot of those guys, especially if they're single or they're divorced and they just want to be out there in their 40s and their late 30s. So it's, I don't, I think that most women encounter these bad relationships with men, and men do with women. And again, not trying to like, bash men, but like, there's a lot of options for men to cheat, or to be able to say, hey, well, I don't need to commit because I got stuff going on. Now, on the opposite side of it, I'm sure there's other ways for women to as well, but it's this mentality that like it's so much easier now to have whatever I want at any point. Whereas when my dad and my mom are in this committed relationship, monogamy was a completely different thing. And my dad showed me that with my mom, and my uncle showed me that with my aunt. It was, it's beautiful. And like, this is just not what it is. And I think I've always had that hopeless romantic idea. And I think I'm going to have it with these exes, and it's just not there, because they are not emotionally equipped.
You
Yeah.
know, speaking as a ex-husband, I agree with you.
Thank you.
Welcome. I remember, you know, I remember when I got divorced, I was when I finally came out of my depression fog, I'm like, "Hold on here. I can date. I can go on I can be that guy and go date younger women."
Yeah, why
Yeah, that
not?
never happened.
No, so but the thing is, like, that's okay for you to date younger women, and that's okay for men who are divorced to date younger women. It's about how they treat them. Now, how come that never happened? You should have.
It goes back to what we were mentioning earlier about the confidence thing. I just even in high school, I didn't date a lot in high school because, um, I quite honestly, we you can play therapist right now too, Michelle, but, um, I really think that my parents' divorce had a major impact on my psyche because of confidence and fear of failure because there I watched I witnessed, my parents' divorce right in front of me. I'm watching their marriage crumble, and so I didn't wanna date. I didn't wanna see that hurt that I got to witness watching my mom, cry. So, therefore, I didn't date a lot. I think after my divorce, I dated two other women, and then um, I'm happy you mentioned Ash Wednesday. I firmly believe that God picked my wife and said, "Here's the guy for you. Here's the lady for you." So it in that aspect, Michelle, that worked out really well. But at the same time, um, as you're well aware, you're a parent. I didn't want to. I learned that I took my time with my son for granted, thinking that I was going to be married to his mom for forever, until death do us part, until one of us kills each other, whichever comes first.
Yeah.
And I took that time for granted because I again thought this was it. And after my divorce, I just said, I want to commit my life to my son. I want to make sure that he and I have a bond, that he and I um, literally stay together, even though not living in the same house. So that's probably the biggest factor why I didn't date a lot, is because I just wanted to I wanted to be that dad that was with my son or with their kids, not just every other weekend dad. I wanted to be there as much as I can. I've talked about this on this podcast before, Michelle, and that is anytime there was a school event and they needed chaperones, I would do anything to rearrange my schedule just to make sure I was there. So that's the long story short. I'm probably still messed up, but that's okay. That's what the podcast is for cathartic
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Absolutely. I think it's important to just find the humor in it. And I think that that part of the divorce and break relationships and dating is that instead of, like look at like let yourself have that moment and say, okay, well, I'm not going to be that guy. And what does the woman do if I take her out and treat her nice? They don't treat me right. So it's a little hypocrisy, and kind of poke fun at it. I mean, everyone tells me like, why are you dating these same guys? I said it's not even so much that I'm dating the same guys. It's kind of like, well, it's like opening the door when it says use the opening the right door. Excuse me, opening the right-handed door when it says please use the front entrance or something. Or what is it? Opening the side entrance when it says please use the front entrance. It's like, well, why? You're ignoring the sign, but there's humor to it, and you got to laugh at it, some of this stuff. And
Oh yeah,
also, you got to
oh
take
yeah.
risks. You have to take risk and be fearless, otherwise, nothing is going to change, and you won't be able to. Like the secret is a big thing about putting it out there. And what is it? It's like almost it's about that manifestation, right? And stuff will
Right.
happen. It's
Law of
I
attraction.
completely and utterly agree with that. I don't think that. I think if you don't put it out there, if you don't try, nothing's going to change.
I want to go back to something you were talking about. Previous guest on the podcast, Kathy Hammond, author and speaker. She was talking about, and this blew me away, and it sounded like you two are on the same page. And I've always come to a realization that it's the men that try to be the fixer, but it sounds like you're saying it's the women trying to be the fixer in relationships.
I haven't dated any man that's tried to fix anything. And that includes a toilet bowl if it's clogged. Except, like my ex husband actually did. My ex husband would fix a toilet bowl if it was clogged because he's an engineer and he knew how to fix it. But outside of that, I have not dated, and outside of my father, my uncle, and stuff like that, like the men I've dated have not fixed anything. So I don't know. I don't. I've. It seems like I tend to want to help those, and like a lot of women, not a lot, shouldn't say that, maybe the type of woman I am. I'm an empath. I like nurturing. I want to help the person if they're troubled. Inadvertently, like what is it? Subconsciously, I'm doing it too. It's like I'm not trying to go looking for the bird that's wounded on the ground that can't move and is, like pecking at me. But that ends up being the guy that that's what his true colors end up being. The last one was like that, and then the one before that I haven't had a lot. I haven't really had a serious relationship since my ex-husband. I've had one that was pretty serious for me, but it, tore me apart, and he showed his really true colors. There was like maybe two that were pretty deep. The other ones were idiots, but like I didn't have as strong feelings for them. But they were doing the same kind of stuff, like, oh, I'm busy, I gotta work, not texting and being consistent with communicating. The guy I'm talking to now is doing the same stuff, and he thinks I should meet. He won't text me every day, and I said to him, so I had so okay, I'm saying so too many times. So. I was on this date with him the other day at Starbucks. It wasn't really a date, it was a meetup because I had ranted to him that he basically is a jerk and has been insulting for the last couple of months, and I'm done. And we met up, and he took a business meeting in the middle of our meetup in the Starbucks. Like I was pushed out of my seat so he could meet with somebody about one of his buildings he had to sign off on. I couldn't believe it. I was like, "Is he for real right now?" He's like, "I just had to meet this guy for a couple minutes." I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna go over here." I said, "Wait, what?" I said, "Well, I have to use the bathroom, so I'll be right back." He's like, "Okay, perfect." And so the guy took my seat. I went up and got into the bathroom. I come out. I'm like, "Should I just leave?" I got an oatmeal because I wanted to hear what this guy's explanation was. I sat down by the mobile order. Now, again, most people were like, "Why the fuck would you even stay?" Oh, I'm sorry. Am I allowed to curse?
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you for subconsciously saying that. I'm with the subconscious. Go
Okay,
on.
good.
Sorry. Go on.
So I waited at the mobile station like an idiot. I'm like, I was like, I should just do a live and get some feedback, like just to even post the content. So he called, he weighs me over like it's like little league, like, oh, okay, we'll put you back in, Michelle. We're gonna try you back out there on the field. What the hell? So I call over and I'm laughing. I'm like, what was that? He's like, I'm sorry, I was supposed to meet him late. No, he didn't even say he was sorry. So I'm adding the fact that he should say he was sorry, but he didn't. Yeah, I was supposed to meet with him later, but he couldn't meet later. So I told him to come over here. You told this guy to meet when you were supposed to meet with me. And so I didn't say anything. He was like, so what do you got there? Oatmeal? Like he was trying to deflect before I could start in on anything. So the conversation went into the thing about the oatmeal, and I was like, let me cool down for a second before I go flying off the handle. And so I said, and so then we started talk. I said, oh, what the heck happened? The conversation got diverted to something else, but then I said, because he likes to project that he's an expert on everything, like buildings, businesses, because he owns a business. Owns a couple buildings. He's an expert on women's health, because he's a Greek man, and that's what he can be an expert on. In addition to buildings, he knows about women's health and science and religion. He knows everything. And so when I'm listening to talk, I'm like, okay, well, I said something. I said, yeah, but you're not an expert on like how to respond to somebody via text message. All right, so we go into it. I'm getting to this point. I said, what was that just now? You took a business meeting in the middle of this. He said, what was that? Was that bad? I said, yeah. I said, what? I said, don't you think I got other things that I have put aside in my morning to meet you? He said, yeah. I said, so why would you do that? Like he doesn't. And he said, well, I want you to meet me halfway. I understand you. I hear you, Michelle, but I need you to meet me halfway. If you understand me and you hear me and you want to meet me halfway, where are you meeting me? You just pushed me aside for a business meeting in the middle of Starbucks that is located near where you live. I'm not even at the corner, bro. You need to meet me all the way at my house. Hey, this guy's a jerk off. But we also made out in the parking lot. So I don't know how great I'm doing on that. So everyone in the show. I did a private event last night, and everyone's like, "What the hell is wrong with you?" But we have a connection, okay? I don't know
Great
what's wrong with
punchline right
me.
there, Michelle. That's a great.
It
We have a
is. I did it.
connection.
But we have this connection that we do. We actually do have a nice connection, but this guy keeps screwing up with his own ego. Like like the fact that everyone's going so great, and then he's like, oh, I gotta take this meeting. I'm like, what do you mean take this meeting? And P.S. I have not heard from him today. like we talked a little bit yesterday texting, but it was because of a text I said, "Thank, I'm glad we met," the day before, and he texted me and said he was too, and then it was like one or two text messages. Now I have not heard from him today, which is a problem because that's what I had stated. I said I I said I need to hear from you daily, and you need to come to one of my shows because those are two major things. If you're not coming to a comedy show, and I've invited him multiple times, and I asked, I said, how many times have you come to a comedy show? I said, how many times have I invited you to one of my shows? He says many. I said, how many times have you come? He said none. I said, major problem. He's like, really? That's a major problem? I said, because I said it's important. He's like, really? It's that important? I said, yeah. He said, why? I said, because it's what I do. This is who I am. This guy don't even get it. Like the fact that he has to ask why it's important too is just another sign this guy is on his own Greek island. I told you he's Greek, right? He's this Greek
Right.
guy. He's on his own Greek isle, like where nobody lives except him. The only people that live there work for him and bow down to him and like never say anything that is anything but submissive to him. So, anyway,
The funniest thing so far, Michelle, is as we started this conversation, as we
I know
started
we
going,
veered off track. I'm sorry.
no, 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 you went from a little bit of the prim and proper Michelle to the New Jersey girl is coming out.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I have the facilitator, and then they like, no, I'm not going. The girl who smacked her a cop ex boyfriend in the face. That's the girl who you can turn into.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, you have that on your website, that little clip.
Oh, my ex. Yeah, Mike. Mike is a great. Actually, Mike follows a show. I shouldn't realize. I guess it doesn't matter to say his name because Mike's a common name, but he's a good sport about it because that was a couple years ago. With dating him, I actually really liked Mike, and he really really liked his dog. So,
What kind of dog?
oh come on, an English bull. Was it an English bull terrier? And those things look like donkeys, like little tiny donkeys fucked a possum. That's what they look like. Are we allowed to curse on this? I'm sorry.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Okay, good, good.
No, yeah.
And I mean, his dog was cute. His dog was vicious, but like he was like in love with his dog, and his dog had passed away during our relationship, and then I got booted at one point. I hadn't talked to him for 2 weeks. He was so upset about that, and then like he got a new dog. Oh my god! And I was like, what about us? Like, why can't we develop our relationship? Anyway, we're friends now. He's bought tickets to my show. He doesn't come though. He just buys tickets like to support, and he subscribes to the channel and stuff like that. Yes. So
That's a good guy. Good guy.
to well, let's not go that far.
Okay.
No, no. He would be a good guy. Actually here I will say this. I actually recently got the closure I needed from that from a friend, a mutual. Like I worked with her in my old school district. She was his friend, and she told me, she's like, I'm just gonna be honest with you. Like he can't do relationships, and I know what went down with you two, and he liked you. And she goes, and he wasn't with anybody else. I'm telling you, he wasn't. He just can't be in a relationship, and like he has a lot of baggage, like bad baggage that he didn't ever bring on to himself that I feel very bad about. So, and he fought in Afghanistan. Like he isn't a bad guy. He just doesn't. He can't. It was not. He's not a bad guy. I will say that he's not a bad guy. That I will say. So I'll agree to that. Now the coach is a bad guy, which I
Hold
didn't get
on.
into. Yeah.
Is this a different Greek guy?
No, I date mostly Hispanic men, but the Greek
Bueno.
guy was so bueno, yes. Um, so the coach was the one who was technically married,
Okay.
and
Okay.
he's in my eyes the devil in human form.
I see why you have your stand up because it really is funny to listen to and it's really unbelievable. But it's life.
Yeah, it is his life. You can't look well. I I think there's a lot of women who've been with relationships with men. They're stuck with the lying, and the lying gets women, specifically people like me, who we believe a lot. There's it's emotional vampire, or it's like empath and narcissist, and it's this destructive relationship where it drains somebody to the point that it messes with their mental health. That's the part that everybody, it's this is what's that's the downfall of divorce and relationship breakups and lying and cheating, and even in a marriage, when you're in an unhealthy marriage, the breakdown of your mental health, like, it's devastating. And when you feel like you knew somebody and all of a sudden they turn out to be somebody completely, like, you don't even know who that real you don't know who the real person is, and you're like, this couldn't have happened to me. It does. There are people out there with multiple personalities, where I'm not labeling them. I don't know if that's what he had, or what he has, but I can't understand anything else, because I didn't make up the feelings that I felt. It wasn't even what he had to say to me, right? Like what he said, or he could have said, "I love you 1,000 times." He did. If I didn't feel it, I would have been like, "I don't know," you know. And this person and I have this great connection. I felt something for the first time I've never felt before. It was hard. It's still very hard to let go. So I use my humor, my show, my performance to kind of get through and navigate it. But it's hard when people are in 30-year relationships. I met someone last night who was in a 30-year marriage, and the man came out of the closet. Came
Well,
out of the closet, and she was
he had to pace
hysterical.
himself. He had to pace himself.
Oh my god. This woman was crying right before the show. I was like, "Holy crap." I mean, like, I can't even imagine that. And I mean, people are, yeah, I guess there's stuff that happens and you just can't know how to get through that. So he had to pace himself. Oh boy, I don't know. I mean, yikes. But and then people stay in those relationships, like not that one specifically, but I know women who are in relationships that they cheat on their husband, and they both have this understanding. It's just, we're going to stay together for the kids or for finances. And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to stay together just because I had a child with somebody. I didn't want to make them miserable because I was unhappy. And I tried. I tried very hard. We went to therapy, put everything out there, and it did not work. It was not making. I mean, you have at one point a direction you're going to go in. Go for the gold or stay in mediocrity. Be a lion one day or a sheep 1,000.
One of the things. Let's talk about a divorce shower.
Ah, so a divorce shower. I've never been to one, but I'd love to throw one, because I put that on one of my posts, right?
Yeah, and it's not a bad idea because,
Well, people need the money too.
well, you need the money, but maybe it's their way of, you know, understanding that it's over, they have closure, they can move on.
Yeah, I think that's why there's a so like the idea for me with the Divorce Diaries is to do these divorce parties. Divorce Diaries is a party in itself, following my show, and the shower component is like the process of then you're getting divorced. Like someone throws you a shower to help you. So maybe yeah, I think people should. Why not?
Well, in my own history, I remember years and years ago listening and reading Zig Ziglar, and Zig Ziglar talked about depression, and he would say if you're going through essentially a dark time, a dark moment, set a time frame to get out of it, and it shouldn't be a long time frame. And I think that's where I failed myself. My mental health is went into this fog, this deep depression, instead of trying to, as a guy, we're not really good at opening up with our feelings, and not able to really express ourselves, and not able to ask for help. And so I really feel if I had maybe set a better time frame and said, all right, I'm going to go through this funk for, let's say, a month. And then afterward, yeah, let's throw a divorce shower. Let's throw a party. Let's just move on. It's a, it's an, it's a, some maybe a
Yeah.
baptism. You still get to keep moving on. You get to keep trying to not necessarily find the next Mr. or Mrs. Wrong or Mrs. Right, whichever you want to feel, but just get up and get moving.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh I think it's important for people to have this a process where it's helping them on a mental stable way. I think that a lot of negativity with like reflect paralleling divorce to marriage, and I do it for humor purposes, but I think that a divorce, you say divorce shower, you a divorce party. There's this process where it's costing you money to get divorced, so why not have it's costing money to get married, so why not have or maybe you call it something else, a divorce, divorce, a divorce what is it, mud run, not mud run. Like it's if it's a shower for a wedding, it's the opposite for a divorce. Like,
Yeah, go be like Pigpen from
yeah,
Peanuts.
right, something I don't know, but like it's there's just a lot of negative thing with divorce, and nobody wants to break up with somebody. They breakups are negative, but there's also something that you have to move on with. It's the same thing with when someone dies. Like you have a repast at a death to celebrate their life, right? Well, you have a wedding to celebrate the next step. You have a divorce party to celebrate the next step, that you're finally at the end of the path where it took you so long to get done with it. So,
Um, what's the Propbox Players?
I own a theater company. I'm the owner of Propbox Players. It's a children's theater company that specializes in inclusion performances, and I centralize it around the kind of comedy I do for. I facilitate the way excuse me. So I'm also a teacher, and I teach through my theater company now. I just left my full time school district job to go back to performing full time in my theater company, and then Divorce Diaries, and any other performing gig I get. But Propbox is mainly I do school performances, library performances of fairy tales. Three Pigs is a show I tour with, and an improv show, and Little Red. I do sensory friendly props. The kids are a part of the show. And I'm working on a project with my another performer on a show for kids with special needs, that would have the parents in one room watching a show and the children in another room, so parents have a night out with their kids and it being taken care of, that have special needs. So that's the long end. I have to start getting better at answering quick, like more clear and concise. Propbox is my theater company that I own, and it specializes in inclusion performances.
Uh, what is your elevator pitch?
Yeah, I have one. I just like when I get on these podcasts, I end up start just randomly going into monologues, and I apologize.
No way, it's all good. But I want to stand that topic, Michelle. So, as an educator, how how can we parents help build up our kids' confidence, especially if they're coming from a divorced family?
I just that's a great question. I just think you need to be honest with them, and not in a way that is brutally negative. I just think you need to be open and honest with them, and you don't badmouth their parent, and you treat it as in a professional manner with the other person. If you're not getting along with them, or you are, whatever, I think you just need to be an open and honest with them, and you check in with them, and you ask them questions. You make sure you have constant conversation and dialogue.
What about as adults? How can we build up adults after a divorce?
How can we build each other up?
Yeah.
Or okay. Um, well, I think one thing we can do is listen instead of offering 1,001. Because sometimes with my when I got not even so much during the work, but after, people felt like they could give me advice that was like helpful for them or the right way or right thing to do, but it wasn't for me. I felt like it was putting me down. And maybe I'm also very sensitive, so I felt like I had to do certain things and not let people hear about some of my life because then they would judge it, and I didn't want anyone to know. So I feel like some people should just listen and not offer advice. Unsolicited advice is not welcome unless I have asked you for it. When it comes to a personal relationship, obviously when I'm doing a show and I'm on, that's different. Like when if you're an entertainer, you know, you have to, that comes with the territory. But if I'm a family member or a friend and I know someone's getting divorced, I'm not going to tell them what they should do. I'm just going to be there to listen and support. And if they ask me what they think, what would you do, then I would give my advice.
I heard somebody once say you should never take advice from somebody whose life is as screwed up as yours.
And and no one's life is perfect. Everyone's life
Right.
is a little bit screwed up. So like you can't, and nobody's journey is the same and the answers are not the same. So it's like that. There's a rule. My old dramaturg said this to me. I worked on a show with her that I wrote. She said you can take everything that I give you. You can take some of it, or you can take none of it. That's my role. And that's what I think it should be with a lot of people when they offer advice. You take it, you don't take it, or you take a little bit of it and apply it like how you can take pieces and manipulate it around to fit your own site, your own theories and your own strategies that will help you. But don't take people too seriously, like that they're the end all be all in their opinion.
Do you suffer from imposter syndrome?
I don't know what you have to explain that.
Do you feel that sometimes you feel fake, or that some of your wins are not real wins,
Oh
so to
God, I
speak?
hope not. I talk about most of my fails. No, I hope not. No, I would hope I don't suffer from imposter syndrome.
What is now, as a writer, I always like to ask other creatives as far as their writing process. So, what's your writing process for writing your comedy?
Oh, that's a great question. I okay, so I write artist notes. I think it's called artist notes. It's there's a book called The Artist's Way, and it's basically freestanding writing for like a certain amount of time every single day. Preferably when you wake up, you're supposed to do it. I think. Again, I adapted my own feeling for this artist note. Okay, uh, yeah, it's I do that for about 15 minutes, and then I also do a brainstorm for 15 minutes, and then I start writing jokes for another half hour, and then sometimes if I have extra time, I'll write another 30 minutes of Divorce Diaries structure and jokes, and that's on a morning, the first part of the morning after I drop my daughter off to school. So that's one writing routine that I do. And if I can't do it in the mornings, I have a gig or I'm teaching or something, then I'll do it either at night or at some point I have to do it during the day.
So it sounds like you try and use the
Time, yes,
block time. Yeah.
have to. Otherwise, I mean, you have to. It's part of the job, in my opinion.
Right. I mean, yeah, you have to. I mean, especially as a comedian, you have to be, somewhat current. You have to be fresh. Um, I'm sure you have repeat customers, and they don't want to hear the same old, same old.
Right, exactly. And I think that like if you don't write, you're not going to get better. You know what I mean? Like you're not, for me personally, if I don't write and reflect on listen to my last show and transcribe and fix jokes, it's just not going to get better. And I want my content to be relatable, not just to divorcees. I want people to be like, oh, I'm not divorced and this show is funny. Like, what, why were, I was 7 years old and finding the Golden Girls funny. I wasn't a 50-year-old woman dating men, but Blanche was hysterical, like that writing was perfect. So yeah, absolutely.
Um, is it is it going to be? I don't know how to phrase it other than, is it? Are you going to end up running out of stories
No.
unless you're dating somebody?
I mean, it's not about you. It's my life is ongoing, so when I'll never run out of stories. It's about how you manipulate things around you, what the story is about. I do have a central idea for where I want Divorce Diaries to go, and with the in the structure. And I mean, I think that goes for every writer and every comic. You know, things don't stop because life doesn't stop. Knock on wood. I'm still here, so no. Material will keep coming.
Exactly. Yeah, but I was just curious about, as far as, is is the is the dating uh, a focal point, or is it more of weaving stories? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so it's not that the dating is not so the focal point is my character's flaws and will she find love and career success, right? So because I my goal with the show is to be on a network with a series, right? So it's episodic, and when I do the live show, it is stand up and it is improv, but I'm working on it being episodic and working on the same people coming back every month to see the next episode of Divorce Diaries live. So it's the core. I'll share a little bit with you about the log line of my show, if you don't mind, if you would be interested in hearing it.
Yes, definitely.
So that the dating is the fun, like for me, writing about the dating part's a lot of fun and it's therapeutic. So I hope when people watch the show that they look forward most to that, because that's, I think, the part where we're all like, oh God, the dating world is so crazy. Okay, wait, here it is. Chronicles of a working class divorced mom who pursues happiness in love and career while tripping into beautiful disasters along the way. That's copyrighted, so nobody can take that. Thank you. Sorry, I have to say that. I have a couple of them actually. But there's, you know, her divorce journey explores, obtaining euphoria in love and career while balancing, diapers, dating, and divorce. And can I get in my own way? Absolutely. And here's how. Well, here's what happened next. Like when in The Office, Michael Scott was trying to achieve what? A family. His office was the family. And when he finally found that woman, he's like, well, I found, like, that's when he was able to leave. So it's kind of like, I'm finding my story. It's episodic. It's following my post divorce journey through dating, through teaching, through bartending, through all the other things I've done during my divorce and after my divorce to see, will she obtain her true romantic love at last? Is he really out there amidst all these little, like, chaotic but beautiful messes?
How can the listeners? I mean, I know on Instagram, but how? I'll let you do the self promotion right
Yeah.
here,
Oh my gosh,
Michelle.
Tommy,
How
thank
can
you.
the listeners get a hold of you and watch your divorce diaries and all that good stuff?
So Instagram is the biggest one because that's my most followers right now. A Divorce Diaries show. Facebook, it's Divorce Diaries show. Facebook is weird. You have to look. I don't know. If I go to Divorce Diaries on Facebook right now, it's like Divorce Diaries 2 for some reason. I don't know why. It's a page, Divorce Diaries show. And then Michele Traina on Facebook. And Michele Traina is also just my individual, like, personal pages. So you can follow that as well. And the big, big one, besides Instagram is my YouTube Divorce Diaries show. Is why I say that is because I'm trying to build up more subscribers because I want my show to be on a network. You got to build more subscribers on that thing. It's cuckoo. And then Twitter, it's Divorce Diaries show as well. So Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And if you go to my website, micheletraina.com or divorcediariesshow.com, you can email me, book me, find out more information. You can see updated press. Yeah, I mean that's it.
All right, so here's the last question, Michele. What has changed in your life the past 12 months?
My dad died, which sucks really bad. The last 12 months, you said, right?
Correct.
So my dad passed away 2 months ago, and that's a huge shift. And then I also lost my relationship with a person that lied. That was my best friend, and those I've lost one person who turned out to be a really bad person. So, but there was a part of me that had one of the strongest connections with him I've had with a man in my life. Right? Okay,
Right.
lost that person. They completely were the opposite, completely different person. And then I lost my dad, and I left teaching full time. 3 major shifts in my life have happened in the last 12 months. And they're not so much as that they're negative, but there's 3 huge shifts for me because a lot of good stuff is coming too with my show. My show's being booked. I'm pitching ideas, and people are listening. And I'm moving at a pace now that I'm more comfortable with in making these decisions of leaving teaching. But those are 3 major things that have shifted in the last 12 months.
Well, Michele, again, I am so honored. I feel very blessed that you took the time today to uh, be on this podcast. And like I said, I'm a huge fan of your Instagram. I get a
Oh,
kick
thank you,
out of
Tommy.
everything. Um, and I'm very, from one parent to another. I hope you and your daughter just have a great day every day and just bond. Because, like I said, I suffered early with taking my time with my son for granted, but now he'll be 17 coming up, and we're great buds. And so I hope that relationship that you and your daughter have never ends.
Oh, thank you. And I just wanted to say I watched your TED Talk. That was awesome. When you sent it to me, and I think that's important, to being present with your child, because I get on myself when I'm not present. If I'm doing 500 things at once and she's in the house, and she's watching television, like I want to be present. I want to be here, and enjoy the being present in the moment, even if it's just one day where you're just taking a couple hours off from everything and just being present and in the moment. Thank you so much, Tommy, for having me too. And I am so excited
Me
to have been a
too. I
part of
mean,
the.
thank you. I mean, again, I'm just thrilled that we were able to make this happen, Michele.
Thank you so much, Tommy. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Blending the Family, the podcast. We hope the little kid kicking your seat behind you while flying across the country was less painful than listening to Tommy. Please leave a rating and review, however you get this podcast, whether it's through the mail or from your neighbor or listening in under the couch. I don't know. You tell me.